Good evening and welcome to CB8 Speaks. My name is Sophia James. I'm a member of Manhattan Community Board 8, which covers the Upper East Side from 59th Street to 96th Street and Roosevelt Island. Our guest this month will offer personal perspective as a Community Board 8 member. We will learn what inspired her participation and what she enjoys most about participating on Community Board 8. Loraine Brown was appointed to Community Board 8 by Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer in 2015. She presently serves as co-chair of the Housing Committee. Loraine is a member of the NYCHA Resident Advisory Board and serves on President Obama's criminal justice sentence reform. As a tenant advocate, activist, and volunteer, she has served as board member for various organizations, including the American Cancer Society and NAACP. She has also been active as a budget delegate for District 5 Participatory Budgeting Committee, helping facilitate the budgeting process. Welcome, Loraine.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us today.
Certainly.
I'm aware you've been heavily involved in the community. What drew you to joining the community board?
To make a difference, to be part of the solution, and more importantly, to be the voice for the voiceless, and to make a strong contribution.
I think that's always important, and I'm only empathetic with what you're saying. In parallel to your work as co-chair of the Housing Committee, you've been very active on Section 3 compliance and how it relates to NYCHA development. For those who may not know, could you tell us what Section 3 means and why is it important?
Certainly. Section 3 was implemented by George Romney, Mitt's father. During the Nixon administration. He was Secretary of HUD. And he wanted to make a difference in people's lives. He wanted them to have an opportunity to move in and move out, but to be self-sufficient. So with Section 3, it provides training. But more importantly, you can have your own business. And the Housing Authority sets aside X number of dollars so that you can grow your own business. And each resident in public housing has a $1 million cap. So there are a lot of millionaires that have left public housing and who are self-sufficient. And it's an ROI, return on investment. And it's important that we take a group of people, newly arrived immigrants, people who have not had opportunities, and teach them how to be part of the American dream.
Absolutely.
And also, too, I think it's critical that government staff learn about Section 3 and how it's implemented.
How do you see your role as a community board member tying into all of your advocacy work?
Well, my focus right now is affordable housing, particularly in our community, Community Board 8, because we have so many developers that are here in town, and they're participating in the tax credits, the 421A, and a lot of them are taking those tax credits and putting those apartments in the Bronx and other boroughs. We feel if they're going to build here, there should be opportunity for people to live here.
I agree with you. What's been the biggest win for you on the community board?
Well, I don't know if I'd use the term win, the terminology win, but what's been most critical for me is housing, affordable housing, especially for seniors. There's a lack of affordable housing for seniors, and I support the mayor's plan. And I want to work closely with the mayor to implement it so that old people and young people have an opportunity to live and thrive in our district.
Absolutely. And my last question, and one I favor because of the interesting answers I've received, if you could change any 3 things about how community boards work, what would they be and why?
Well, I feel a mentoring program. The senior community board members, when a new member comes in, they should be assigned to a senior member for at least a trimester so that they can learn the ropes, how to proceed, Robert's Rules of Order, etc., and the politics, of course. And the second thing I'd like to see the community board have meetings in some of the public housing developments in this particular area so that the people in housing can see how the community board functions and give them an opportunity. Gee whiz, I want to participate. I want to make our community better. And lastly, I think it's critical that we all have an understanding that we're all part of the community and to be inclusive. And there should be term limits. We have people that have been on the community board for 8, 9, 10, 20 years. I'd like to see room made for younger people and older people and more people of color to participate. That's what I would like. Those are the 3 things. Thank you for asking.
Oh, no, those are certainly some interesting ideas. And I'm sure there are, many people in the community who share some of your, preferences as well. Is there anything that I haven't, asked that you would want to share with us today?
Well, yes. This has been a wonderful opportunity for me. And my focus right now is affordable housing. And we're going to be convening next year in January, hopefully with all of the Manhattan Borough community boards, to set up a bank, a clearinghouse, so that people can reach out to us regarding affordable housing, what are some of the loopholes, how it can be addressed, what are the opportunities, and to make the developers more accountable, more enforcement, and more importantly, to offer more than 20%, at least 30 or 40%.
Okay, thank you so much, Loraine, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I learned a lot from you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, absolutely. If you're interested in learning more about or serving on the community board, you can find more information on the CB8 website. If you're passionate about serving your community, I highly encourage you joining one of our next community board meetings, which are open to the public. And these meetings are available on our website at www.cb8m.com.
Introduce our next guest, Tricia Shimamura. Welcome, Tricia.
Thank you.
Tricia was born and raised in the West Coast, between Southern California and Reno, Nevada. Though she grew up in a considerably low-income environment, her parents, and especially her mother, always encouraged her to give back to the community. As a first-generation college graduate, after college, Tricia moved to New York City and pursued a master's degree in social work at NYU. As a social worker, she focused on community development and service, and this led her to work with Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. She ultimately became Deputy Chief of Staff in her district office, where she focused on local issues like the 2nd Avenue Subway, MTS, and the East River Esplanade. Last year, Tricia left Congresswoman Maloney's office and took a position at Columbia College, where she works in the Office of Government and Community Affairs, and she continues to work with elected officials on the city, state, and federal level, and talks about issues that affect the university's students and researchers. Welcome again, Tricia.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So it looks like since a very young age, you've been someone destined to work in public service. Why don't you tell a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know about public service, but certainly my parents, and especially, like I said, my mom raised us with a real understanding that whatever we have, we should always be trying to give back and give back to our communities. I remember countless years of spending Mother's Day and my mom's birthday and Thanksgiving serving in either homeless shelters or soup kitchens. And I think that those experiences really stuck with me. Even through college, I always kind of thought that I would be doing something in community development, something in community service. And after I finished up my degree in social work, I knew that I wanted to do something working on the macro level, working in a district of some kind. And thankfully, I was able to find a place at working for Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So it looks like because of Congresswoman Maloney's office, that was your first introduction to community boards.
Yeah, it was.
So tell us a little bit about what tasks it involved with you having to work, I believe, in the 4, 6, and 8 community boards.
Yep. So what I love about community boards is not just that they allow community members to work together to advocate on issues that affect their neighborhoods, but they also act as a real education source for people to really understand the kind of basic fundamentals of government. You can come to a community board just off the street and talk about that streetlight that you really want to be fixed, and someone can tell you, who is in charge of transportation issues on the city level. Or you can talk about maybe an immigration issue that you've been noticing in your community, and someone else can talk to you about what's going on there on the city, state, and federal level. So as a community liaison for Congresswoman Maloney's office, I worked for years representing her office and attended those meetings, talked with constituents. I was able to gauge the temperature of various issues in the community and how her constituents felt about certain issues, and so that we were always responsive and could best represent them in Congress.
Great. So once you joined Columbia, something drew you back to the community board.
Yes.
Tell us your first impression after 6 months of being a member.
Sure. Everyone told me that even though I had worked with community boards and served as a public member for a while, that none of that was ever really like actually serving as a board member. And I have to tell you that they are absolutely right. I thought I really knew exactly how I was going to feel and what committees I wanted to serve on. But really, once you walk in as a member and once you realize that you're voting on issues that are so important to people in your both your neighbors and maybe people who live 20 blocks from you, it kind of takes on a whole new weight and significance. I realize that I take public testimony and the public session a lot more seriously than I ever did in any of my other roles before. And kind of presentations on issues that aren't necessarily right in my neighborhood, I'm very careful about, just because I realize the significance that that may have, not maybe on me as much as so as someone 20 blocks away. So it's definitely been challenging. It's been humbling in a lot of ways, and it's definitely been a learning experience. I also love that our community board in particular has a lot of institutional knowledge from older members. That's the humbling part, really, is that I think I know of an issue, and then I talk to someone who's worked on the issue for 20 years or more, and so it's been wonderful to learn from them and to talk to older members and get their experience and sight and vision on the matter.
So you mentioned some of our seasoned members, as I like to call them. You've joined the Parks Committee. What was something that drew you to that particular committee?
Actually, it's a fairly good story. I was working for the Congresswoman's office as her deputy chief, and someone told me that I had a meeting with the co-chairs of the Parks Committee, who was then Barbara Rutter and Peggy Price. And they walked in and they sat me down and told me that they had a very kind of clear vision for the priorities of the Parks Committee, and kind of fell down into two pieces. I remember them so clearly. The need for more open public space and the need for better advocacy and just maintenance of our East River Esplanade. And honestly, I was so blown away by their commitment and their passion and just enthusiasm for this project. It really made me think that if I ever had the opportunity to serve on a community board, that I was going to serve on parks. They definitely, got a loyal follower in me, and since then I haven't regretted that decision. I really think that those are some of our most important issues, especially in terms of the resources that our community has, and I love serving on the Parks Committee.
Have there been any other committees that sort of have drawn you in that perhaps may not have been your first choice, and now that you've been a member for 6 months or so, have piqued an interest?
Sure. Well, I serve on 2 more right now, officially at least. I serve on transportation, which I think is certainly kind of in the same line as parks. Shared resources, very important, really affects everyone. no matter who you are. But I think that the most surprising committee that I'm serving on right now is the vending committee. I really didn't think I was going to, I didn't think beforehand that I was going to join this committee. I credit Michelle Birnbaum, another very knowledgeable person on our board.
Yeah.
She asked me to attend, and I did, and I was kind of blown away by, first of all, the amount of community members that attend vending committees. She packs the room every time. And second of all, just how very uniquely vending issues affect the community's quality of life. There are so many issues that I guess I never really think about, since I don't necessarily walk down major thoroughways when I go back and forth to work. But they're really important, and our vending issues affect our small businesses, and that affects kind of just the general who is on our streets and what kind of businesses we have. It really does trickle down and affects everyone. So I would say the vending committee for sure.
Are there any specific goals that are sort of driving your 2-year stint on the board that you think are sort of your first priority as a public servant now?
I don't really know. I think that originally I applied for the community board because when I left Congresswoman Maloney's office, I didn't know how to say goodbye to some of the issues that we were working on. Certainly the 2nd Avenue subway was just so important, and it is so important, that I couldn't imagine not getting updates and hearing more about what was going on and being involved in the rollout of such a monumental infrastructure project. And things like the East River Esplanade, it's really is such a undervalued treasure in our community that I had a really hard time thinking that I would not be involved in ways to preserve it and to make it special and to make sure that everyone kind of could enjoy it as much as they could. So originally I joined the board thinking, this is how I was going to continue to work on these projects. And I think that I would like to continue that, as much of a goal as that is. I'd like to continue to work on these important issues. I'd like to continue to learn, and really it's been very moving to talk to community members, both on the board and who come to our meetings, and just hear more about the issues that are affecting them.
So leaving all the logistics kind of aside, from committees to the actual members, what do you think has been your first impression of now actually serving with these 50 people who have come from all walks of life, and many of them have been part of the community for decades, and you are newly minted?
So my first impression of CB8 was fairly mixed, to be honest. I had served on a bunch of different boards as my capacity as a community liaison for Congresswoman Maloney, and I always thought of CB8 as the board that really kind of discussed in detail every single item on the agenda. There was rarely ever any consensus. They always really always had very detailed points to make that led to very long meetings. But I have to tell you, I love them for that. And I think I respect everyone more for the fact that this is a board that doesn't take any point lightly. They take no community issue lightly at all.
Nothing is too small.
Nothing is too small. And that's really something different, to tell you the truth, than I've seen on other boards that kind of quickly move through agendas and kind of quickly pass things unanimously. Not that there aren't things that you can pass and that everybody should be completely in agreement on, but CB8 truly takes every single community issue very seriously. They deliberate on every issue and really try to come to the best conclusions for their community. And so I think that I was a little intimidated at first, but I really respect the deliberation and the time and the passion. Even if there is disagreement, I really respect that I know that everyone's coming at this with the same commitment towards, giving every issue its due time and due process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As someone who's worked on multiple sides of the community, as a liaison and now as a community member, what value do you think being a member has brought to your life?
It's tremendously been brought a tremendous value to my life. As I said before, it's been very humbling to think about my actions and my votes in a larger sense and how they affect the community. But it's also, I also think that it's really engaging, and for anyone, not just anyone who serves on the board, but anyone who comes in, I think it can be really empowering to see projects that you bring forward move through, and to see community members care about what you care about.
Well, thank you so much for having
you.
us over. Thank you, Trish. And thank you for joining us tonight. Keep an eye out for more meet and greets with our community board members. And if you're interested in serving your community, please feel free to join us and are open to the public meetings every month. And to learn more about Manhattan Community Board 8, please visit our website at cb8m.com.
Well, I'm Dan Garodnick, and I have the privilege of hosting the After the program for Community Board 8 Speaks. And we're going to turn the tables now, and I'm going to have a chance to pose a few questions to my guest, Dave Liston, who did a very nice job asking me a whole lot of questions before.
Thanks.
But I wanted to talk to you, Dave, a little bit about a program that you are involved with, specifically at the Holy Trinity Neighborhood Center. You know, you introduced this church and neighborhood center to me many years ago. They do extraordinary work on the Upper East Side. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, thanks, Dan. And thanks again for being on the show. It was a lot of fun to interview you.
I enjoyed it too.
I did bring up the neighborhood center. I brought it up because I see it as something that you've been a part of, and it's something that so many people have contributed to. And it's a chance to affect our community in ways that are perhaps not as big or global as some of the things we've talked about on the show, but I know you'll agree, just as important.
Definitely.
And that's why you've participated in it, and I know you continue to do it. And I know together we have fed our neighbors. We've prepared meals for them. We've sat down with them. We know there are people who are hungry. We know there are people who are homeless, who are nearly homeless. And the chance to sit down and enjoy food and fellowship with your neighbors is something that's very special.
The New York City homeless population has climbed to about 57 or 58,000 New Yorkers, which is an incredible number and has just sort of gone through the roof. So to have programs like this available to people is of increasing importance. And yes, I have been so happy to come by and be part of it. And you know, you do a nice job. When the volunteers show up, you're a man of action. We love it. You give everybody their instructions. I don't know if my sons followed all of the instructions. For those who are watching, they're 4 and 1.5, but they did their very best.
Especially with the cake. I remember they liked handing out the cake.
They were good with the cake.
Yes.
I think they were cake specialists, is right. But it's just a nice, warm environment, both literally and figuratively. And, you guys do a great job in running it. And it's an every week situation.
We do. We serve this up every Saturday. We also have a shelter every night of the week in which we house some of our homeless neighbors. And every Tuesday we offer a lunch to senior citizens. And at Thanksgiving we prepare and serve and deliver Thanksgiving dinners to hundreds of homebound neighbors as well as homeless folks.
Well, I hope the people watching are tempted to come and lend a hand sometime, because I think it's a great program. How would somebody learn more about it?
You could go to htnc.org. That's our website. You could show up any Saturday late afternoon around 3:15 at East 88th Street, 316 East 88th Street. And folks will be very happy to welcome volunteers there. There's something very uplifting about it, and you know this. You'd think it would be sort of a sad experience, but it ends up being a very positive, uplifting experience.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing that. And this has been the after the show portion. There's no blooper reel here, but we're glad to be talking to Dave Liston, who did a great interview before, I thought, asked all sorts of good questions, but I'm glad I had a chance to turn the tables a little bit. Thanks, Dave, for being here, and thanks to you all for watching.